Welcome to Distribution Talk with Jason Bader, the show where we dive into the stories, struggles, and solutions from business owners and thought leaders in the wholesale distribution market. Hey friends, Jason here. In this episode, I had the pleasure of speaking with Kristen Thom. She's a Senior Vice President of Customer Experience for White Cup. And White Cup is a CRM / business intelligence product. And some of you might have known a component of them called MITS for a long time. So I was recently exposed to the combined company. Actually, it's been a couple of years now that I connected with Kristen. But it's really an interesting area. And I know that so many of our companies have struggled with this and how to use CRM. It's like you think you need CRM, but you don't know why. You need business intelligence, you don't know why. And I think what we really talked about and we were able to dissect today is kind of reshaping the lens of how we look at these products rather than a thing that our salespeople feed into so that we can micromanage them and, be the great overlords. It's really what can that CRM feed the salesperson so that they have greater opportunities. And I think just reshaping that lens and reshaping the way that these products are introduced to our teams can really break down some of those implementation and adoption issues that we have with this type of technology. So fascinating conversation. Really enjoy what Kristen had to say and really where they are going as a company. So I hope you enjoy this episode. This episode was brought to you by my friends at Profit2. A couple of years ago, I was introduced to Profit2 through a client who had been working with them for over a year. This client had been struggling with improving gross margins and was looking for a service to help them recapture some of their lost opportunities. Through their work with Profit2, it took about a year, but they were able to bump their gross margins by almost 2 points. For this distributor, and frankly for anyone in the business, this margin enhancement was a big deal. Beyond the pricing service, Profit2 has started helping clients look at cost and rebate management. If you want to discover hidden margin opportunities, come take a look at what Profit2 can do for you. Learn more at www.distributiontalk.com/profit2. That's profit with a number 2. Well, hey, Kristen, welcome to Distribution Talk. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with me today.
Hey, thank you, Jason. I'm so excited to be here. This is wonderful.
Well, great. Hey, I've been around your organization kind of in previous, before it became White Cup, and I've, been very around that, the data mining world, and then, of course, business intelligence. But if you wouldn't mind, maybe sharing a little bit about your background and tell me a little bit about how you got involved with this and what interested you in this world. And then why do you stay around distribution folks?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I started with White Cup almost 12 years ago here, almost to the day.
Okay.
We're getting pretty close.
Wow.
And so I initially came to White Cup as an individual contributor. I was running implementations and onboarding for our customers.
Yeah.
I really got to understand these businesses and the pain points, the people using the system every day and what their day-to-day looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And it is interesting because it's different than other B2B and it's certainly different than B2C markets. And so when you understand distribution itself, you start understanding again what those nuances are. Distribution, I think, is particularly interesting as you dig in with folks. Of course, they're always looking on how can we do more with less? We're running on thin margins. How can we increase, our margins as well as our revenue, things like that. But there's always this interesting intersection of their customer understanding and their customer engagement, but also the relationships that they maintain with their suppliers and their vendors, and this larger ecosystem that is much more complex than a lot of other B2B industries. And so you end up with, tons of customers, thousands, hundreds of thousands of customers. You end up with tons of SKUs, millions of SKU lines and things like that. This super complex interplay of all of those that a sales team and a customer facing team needs to manage and understand and be able to really speak to, while not getting so bogged down in that you lose the relationship, because distribution is so relationship driven, as it should be. And so it's really that complex interplay. And I think it's more complex than a lot of other B2B markets where it's easy to oversimplify sometimes when you don't see in the weeds what these folks are up against every day. So that's where I started about 12 years ago, just understanding that day to day. And again, from a customer facing role lens at these distributors. So the sales team, inside and outside sales, customer service. Now we're seeing, marketing become much louder voice in that as well. So just seeing some changes there. I spent some time there. I worked with our support team here at White Cup for quite a while. So again, understanding pain points kind of post-adoption was, where I was living. I worked with our development team for a little bit, with back over on the customer facing side. Spent the last couple of years running product, which for us is product strategy. What are we building next? Where do we want to go next? What really makes sense for our customers and our folks that we're trying to gain as customers? What are they worried about? What are they interested in? And so now my current role, I'm our SVP of customer experience, and really it packages up all of those pieces that I've done before. So I still own our roadmap and where we're going next. And I also have in my side of our org tree all of our customer facing teams as well. So our support organization, professional services, all of those pieces. For us, having a really tight ecosystem on what our product does, what we want to build next in our product to our direct customers today is so imperative. We get our best ideas and our best input from our customers. And so having that really tight ecosystem has been the key for us there.
So going back to when you started with White Cup, a couple of questions. First of all, was the product just CRM at that point? Was that the primary focus at that point? Or was the BI side involved as well?
Great question. I originally started on the CRM side, and with a little bit of White Cup history, not to get in the weeds too much, we were previously a couple different companies that merged together. And so we had a CRM product, and that's where I came from. And we had a BI product. And so I learned BI as we brought that into the business. So I initially started on CRM and then brought BI into the fold. What we've done since is bring those two together. And I'm happy to talk about why we did that and why that's so important. But for me, it was really exciting to have that BI component brought into our business and then into our product as we went forward. Because CRM, without that basis of business intelligence, the deeper analytics beyond just activity reporting and things like that, this is really where CRM should be, and really where CRM starts cooking for folks, I think, is enabling people with deeper insights on what's going on and including that in this ecosystem. Your CRM shouldn't be just, again, logging activities, entering notes. That's the CRM nobody wants to use for good reason, right?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
But when your CRM is your automation engine that is feeding you these insights based on your business intelligence, what's going on in your ERP and your e-commerce site, your marketing team, bringing together all of this and then feeding you the information that you need to know to be successful, that's where CRM really gets exciting. So in my mind, the addition of BI into our stack and using that, frankly, as sort of our guiding light forward of how do we take that and grow in a new way, has been really pivotal to what CRM means and where CRM, in my mind, should be headed for distributors.
And that bringing in, that was MITS, right? That was the company that was brought in, right?
Correct.
I just wanted to clarify that for the audience because, a lot of us that have been around the block a long time, we know MITS. We've heard that, that is a particular BI component. So yeah, I almost think that some people don't know that MITS is now White Cup. And, honestly, I only figured that out a few years ago, but I was just, I just wanted to clarify that. But then before we go any further, One of the things I wanted to ask you was, all right, so, I mean, nobody wants to grow up to be a CRM, engineer, or whatnot, well, maybe they do. But how did you get attracted to this when you decided to join that organization? What was the thing that said, I'm interested in what these folks are doing?
Yeah, for me, it was understanding that intersection of technology with the business need and how to help a customer really improve their business and their output with technology.
Mm-hmm.
And where distribution, I think, is really interesting is we work with folks who sometimes struggle with that of how do I effectively use technology in my business to
Yes.
move things forward, but there is such a huge appetite and interest in this. Folks are looking for that path forward. They really are in distribution.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what excited me. And frankly, that's why these conversations and working with these customers are so fun, is because there's such an interest in what's going on,
Yes.
not just in distribution, but in tech in general, and
Mm-hmm.
seeing, where should we be looking forward? Distribution is again, it's a relationship business. There's a lot of family businesses,
Yep.
things like that,
Yep.
but it is a constantly evolving problem to solve. And distributors know that better than anyone.
Sure.
And technology fits into that. The distributors are dealing with, if you look back 20 years, increased globalization with the addition of the internet, new competitors coming into their business. Before, maybe it was just regional competitors. Now you have national, you have these huge conglomerations that are kind of stepping in on some
Mm-hmm.
of your, previous share. Distributors are not, new to shifting landscapes. And so they are very interested in what can we be doing to look forward? What can we be doing to make the most of technology to improve what our people do and better enable our people to succeed? So I think that's the fun part working with these folks. There's such an appetite and interest in, okay, well, what can we do if we look outside the box a little bit of what we're doing today? What's
For
available?
sure. Oh, for sure. I mean, Kristen, that's absolutely been my experience is that even though these are very legacy businesses, these are, as you said, multi-generational, sometimes can appear from the outside to be relatively rudimentary and stodgy and, set in antiquated processes and whatnot. But there is a tremendous appetite. The people in these organizations are always looking. What is out there? What is available to us? Now, I don't know if I'm going to jump on it, but I do want to know about it. And I think that is fascinating. In fact, that's probably most of the questions and emails I get from people, people I've met over the years is, well, what's new out there? What's going on? And yeah, I think you're absolutely correct that there is a tremendous excitement or interest in where technology is going and how can it really lift my business. As you said earlier,
Yes.
tight margins, that there's not a whole lot of room, for redundant processes and antiquation. You got to keep pushing forward or else you're going to get left behind.
Yeah. One of the favorite questions that I get coming in is, hey, I heard about this. And with AI, of course, this is happening constantly, right?
Right. Of
I
course.
heard about ChatGPT. I heard about,
Yes.
all of
Yeah.
these new additions and things like that. And then the question is, what does that mean for my business as a distributor? Those are my
Mhm.
favorite questions, right?
Sure.
They want to take what they're hearing about. They want to take the headlines that are happening and frankly, some of the buzz that's everywhere on some of this,
Mhm.
and they
Mhm.
want to figure out what's the direct line that I should care about. How can this
Yeah.
help my team? What should I be focused on to orient my team in the right direction? So those are
Mhm.
just the most fun conversations in
Sure.
my opinion.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, I mean, I am absolutely fascinated. I think I shared with you earlier that I'm absolutely an AI geek, and unfortunately, the audience is getting bombarded with a lot of AI, related subject matter. But you're right, that's the topic, that's the technology topic right now, and people are excited about this, and they want to learn more about, well, what can this do for me? I think though one of the big things, and this has been since the dawn of CRM,
Mhm.
has been adoption and implementation. This has been a struggle for so many distributors. And I think you alluded to this earlier. Nobody wants to put in notes and nobody wants to, go home and, populate the database and populate this product. And so I think if we could just talk a little bit about the adoption question, and that struggle, because I think that is one of those that, frankly frankly people from really taking advantage and really thriving with these technologies rather than slogging through. And I want to see people, if they've made an investment, like, oh, come on, man, let's actually do something special with this. So how do you address that issue?
Yeah. With CRM in particular, one of the biggest sinkers that I'll see in an implementation or just adoption of something that you've had for a while, either one, is trying to do everything all at once. It really is.
Good point.
CRM tools can be very expansive. There's a ton of cool bells and whistles in there. Trying to take all of your current processes and jam them into a tool all at once, unleash it in this quote unquote perfect state for your team,
sure,
and then have business transformation in, overnight.
Yes.
That is always going to run you into issues. And so I frequently see this. We want to do the world, we want to use the technology to the most, but we're not willing to take a step back and say, what's most important first, and tackle that first before we bite off the rest. So in CRM, where I've seen success is, again, going back to one of the things I'm always excited about, starting with that BI component and empowering end users, which in the CRM world is your inside and outside sales teams, customer service, again, those sort of customer facing roles in your business, empower them with really easy access to insight on their customers and across their territory, their customer base that they're looking at, and use CRM as the engine to automate as much as possible of everything else around that piece of it. So if you're focused on outside sales, we want to surface opportunities that are coming up from our information on selling or buying habits that our customers have.
Sure.
Feeding that in a really digestible way. This particular, Jason, next week you should be talking to this customer about this topic to follow up on. So feeding it in those really digestible, actionable pieces, and giving the end users that access to that deeper insight on their customers. Pulling the information from the ERP system, using that as a basis for some of that is really key. What I find is if we use that as our North Star during an implementation of, we want let's just pick on inside and outside sales right now. We want inside and outside sales to have this better view of what's going on with their customers in a way that's actually actionable. Meaning we're not just throwing every piece of data at them, because then, that's when you get the deer in headlights look, right? Like, I've got every piece of information in front of me. What do I care about here? So instead, using all of that insight that we're getting from BI to cherry pick the items that are most important for them to focus on. That's where you can start getting nice wins with the CRM system, and then build on that with automation and things like that. So before you worry about internal process for 12 different things and how to streamline that, which CRM can help with, but if you're starting from that perspective, you are going to lose sight of how do we make our end users, and again, in my world, that's inside outside sales, customer service, those folks, how do we make them more successful? And it's all about giving them a wider view of their customers, but one that is very digestible and focused on, this is the actions that need to be taken. So it's taking all of this data that we have and making it usable and helpful. So not biting off everything before we get to just focus on that as a starting point. I always think that's a helpful just kind of reminder, your CRM should not be seen as a management tool first and foremost.
Great point. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If you're thinking that this is a management tool for your sales manager to have insight on every minute of your sales rep's day, that's the CRM that's going to fail, right?
Well, and I think, your salespeople will rebel against that. I mean, if that is the mentality, great point. I mean, actually, I didn't really think about that. If that is the way it was sold, if that was the way it's been purported to, to everyone, why would I put my information in? Why would I use this tool?
Exactly. it's only going to penalize me as the rep, right? For not doing something perfectly.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to be micromanaged. I really don't. And salespeople in general, I mean, if you look at the sales rep, specifically an outside sales rep, but inside could also fit into this, is they don't like oversight. That is just not something that's attractive and guidance for that matter. They want to go out and run and lop off heads every morning, and they want to go charging down the field, and so I think that's a great point. We want to really push the oversight, gain better, opportunities. And I think that is really the message that has to come up. That's a great point, Kristen.
That lens also shifts the focus of your CRM from being a tool that you need to enter information into to a tool that is providing you information and insights.
There you
And
go.
that shift is also really critical as well. Of course, getting, meeting notes and things like that is helpful to fuel future CRM pieces, but even that should be made easier by your CRM. It should not be a task that you're spending the end of your workday typing up, pages and pages of notes of all of your conversations. Again, that's doomed to fail. Your CRM should be giving you this information and insights, again, from business intelligence, from AI suggestions, from all of these different things, and enabling you to be really effective.
This episode of Distribution Talk is sponsored by InSQL Distribution Software. InSQL is a fully functional distribution-based software package, and these folks do it very well at a price point many smaller distributors can afford. Another thing I like about this company is they do it all in-house. They take on these applications and build them into the platform using state-of-the-art Microsoft technology. No third-party bolt-ons for them. This is important because when you need technical assistance, they are the single point of contact. If you're ready to step up to a fully loaded, scalable distribution package at an affordable price, look no further than InSQL Distribution Software at www.insql.com. That's INXSQL.com.
So your CRM should be giving to you way more than it is receiving from you.
Oh, that's a great,
doing the ingestion and the receiving on its own. And if it's not, then you have a CRM of 10 years ago and your team's going to hate it.
And your team's going to hate it. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I am thinking back to different, people I've worked with over the years and, sales managers struggling with this. How do I get my people to, put information into this? And I think you're right. The question needs to be reframed is what can my salespeople get out of this first? And then, then they realize the more that they give, the more they get out. So interesting. Yeah, it's a great point. I'm just such a fan. So I love the marriage really of business intelligence packages. Because I remember, in the old days, this was, MITS was one of the bigger ones. But, there was originally there's something like TLG, I think there was one. I mean, there's like been a lot of them over the years. And, I know that some of the ERPs have really, dabbled into this, but it was extraction of information for reporting purposes.
Yes.
And that means you just got to slog through reports. That's no good. That's no fun. I mean, or maybe you create a dashboard if you're lucky, but.
Well, it's fun for some of us nerds, but yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I get you. Hey, look, I dig on pattern recognition as well. I mean, I do too. But I think that, I think we're in the minority there. I think that they're, especially in the roles that we're trying to serve, I think we're definitely in the minority there. But I think that really, the excitement is really, you extract that information, transactional information, from your ERP, and you pull it in and then feed it to your frontline individuals, your customer facing individuals, where they can, create new opportunities. I'm a big fan of category expansion inside companies, product category expansion. I've been beating that drum for a very long time. And I think that's where some of these products, shine, is they can say, hey, look, this particular customer type buys all of these categories, but then this customer over here is only buying 2 or 3 of these categories. What's going on in the remainder thereof? And rather than have that in a report, which is doable, why not have it in something telling me, hey, maybe you should reach out to this customer and say, where do you buy these? Where do you buy this category of products?
Absolutely. That is really it. Is again, this is not about penalizing or demonizing how sales teams work. That's not
Yes.
it at all. It's instead saying, hey, you are really good at this relationship building and selling to your existing customers and things like that. How do we help you do more of that more
Mhm.
effectively? How do we take what is in the head of that most senior rep that you have and apply
Mhm.
that same sort of thinking across all of your reps and customer base and just
Yeah.
multiply those effects? And so, yeah, White Cup, we use this term all the time called next best action. And it's exactly that. It's
Yeah.
saying, here's what you're doing with your customer today, and here's what
Yeah.
we suggest. Category expansion is the perfect example of that, like you
Yeah.
said. And frankly, this is a perfect use case for AI because that's what AI is really good at right now, right? Is pattern
Right.
recognition. So
Right.
going
Right.
through all these huge complex sets of data and saying, hey, we have opportunity here with this customer. You have a meeting scheduled next week with them. This should be top of your agenda list with them. Make sure that we're chatting
Mhm.
about this. Or you don't have a meeting scheduled, and you should, because guess what? We got some opportunity here. Just those very small nuggets that are instantly understandable by your sales team because it's what they're already trying to do.
Mhm.
Those are really wonderful places for both AI and automation to accelerate what your sales team can do.
And Kristen, I think that, one of the things that sales managers are always harping on and pushing on with, especially again, field sales personnel, is you have to go in with a plan. You can't
Mhm.
just go in and say, what do you need today? That's the lazy catalog thrower, type of
You're an order
mentality.
taker.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's the professional visitor mentality. But using these tools to go in with a plan, and honestly, every single customer that a distributor has, I don't care if they think they have all the business, there is still opportunity. I truly believe that there are still nuggets to discover and uncover. And I think that's where these tools thrive is, as you said, that's what AI is good at, is really good pattern recognition and correlation, between, this type of customer buys these things. Let's take another customer that looks similar and let's ask them about those things.
Yeah. One of the big things that we like to do is try to empower our users to be that like trusted advisor to their customers.
Mm-hmm.
So we have one customer that's really like taken this idea to heart, or down in Texas, fantastic folks. We love them.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
their whole approach is, we actually know, we as a distributor know a lot about our customers based on their history with us, their
Yes,
buying history, their patterns, and in some cases, understand pieces of our customers' business better than they do because of that lens that we have.
sure.
And where they're using that right now is using that information and that insight, things like when do they tend to order, on what cycles and things like
Yeah,
that. And adding in the additional complexity that we have right now with supply chain craziness,
sure.
impending tariffs that who knows what tomorrow's going to hold. But taking that understanding of your customer's business and what you know about their business and
Yeah,
helping them plan for the future. And again, it gets you out of just being like, hey, you need a reorder of that thing you ordered last
sure.
quarter. It gets you out of that to being a strategic partner in your customer success as well, helping them plan and helping them be more fully aware of their own needs. And then, of course, category expansion, things like that are going to come along for the ride, right? Like it starts to really start
Yeah,
cooking with maximizing your wallet share with those customers when you have this approach of, hey, I understand your business from this lens. Let's talk
yeah.
through this. Let's be partners on how to move things forward.
Well, I think when you provide that type of service to that, end user customer, that you're just making their life easier. They don't have to think about,
Mhm.
am I going to have to order this down the line? They have a partner who reminds them. And, because a lot of the distributors I work with, especially in the construction related services, they tend to sell things that people forget.
Mhm.
And I think that it's really a tremendous service to remind, hey, by the way, I know that you're probably running low on this based on your history. And frankly, you mentioned something that sometimes distributors know more about somebody's business than that end user does. Well, we're supposed to be really good at inventory management and understanding, transaction inventory management. That customer isn't always, that's not their focus at all. And so that's where I think the value can be shared, that, hey, we're good at this and I'm going to kind of share what we're good at. Not just by, selling you stuff. Being that trusted advisor, like you said, is, hey, we're pretty good at some things like this, We're not good at everything, but we're pretty good at this. So, yeah, interesting. No, that's a great point there. So I've often thought about, one of the other use cases here. And this is might be a little bit of a curveball here, so I apologize. But okay, so when we look at products like yours, we look at sales teams. That's generally where we look. Is we look at inside and outside sales. Typically, that's really where it typically works. But where I see a tremendous use case is in accounts receivable.
Sure.
These folks, I really think that they are salespeople. They are the sales completion specialist. Is a friend of mine coined this term.
Yes.
Yeah, we talked about this, and I mean he's out of the business now, but he was the AR guru, for years and years and years and years. Anyhow, and so we used to talk about this quite a bit, but we all believed that these folks in the receivables department really should have a tremendous insight as to customer behaviors, and this is, payment behaviors and dispute behaviors, things like that. How can your product work for that group? Because again, I don't think it's marketed to them, but I think they could really benefit. So could you speak about that just a little bit?
Yeah, great question. I love this. This is actually something we've worked with a few folks as they.
Oh, you have? Oh, fantastic. Okay, cool.
In kind of small ways here and there, and I see it gaining some momentum because, like you said, it's this ecosystem of understanding the customer, and it's creating a term that's kind of taking off right now in some techie circles is like your customer data layer of your business, right?
Okay.
And your accounting function is a very important piece of that, actually being a cycle and not a line, right? Like you want your customer life cycle to be a circle, right? Not a line. So, with that, couple things that I think really great humming, working for your team, BI, CRM, tool can help with. One is, like you said, visibility on trends and what communication looks like outside of your silo with the customer. This piece can be really critical, is just knowing what are those conversations looking like outside of just your conversation with the customer. That's something that, is the basis of CRM, right? Of bringing together all of this communication. So you've got a better view of that. That should be table stakes for anything that you're doing.
Sure.
Where I've seen this start taking off and gaining some momentum with a few folks is tracking incoming issues, requests, things like that as part of even like a service ticket type of model with these customers, so that you have that history, you have that knowledge, and it's shared across your business. Hey, these folks are great, but they're really slow to pay. Like we want to know that up front. Where that could be helpful to live not just in your accounting function, like silo is, okay, that's great to know. We have a history of 2 years, 3 years, 10 years telling us that. Is that something that we want to build in payment terms or something like that specific when we're talking about sales cycle? Maybe this is going to change our discounting model for this particular customer because we know that these cycles might come into play. Again, now with things like tariffs, if we know we have this history and we know that as a distributor, we have volatility in our costs on things, how do we want to make sure that we are protecting ourselves for this type of thing, and the delay in payment isn't going to come back to bite us 3 months from now when our costs may be wildly different, things that we need to be
Yeah.
planning for. So where I see some momentum on this, I have a few folks that are tracking those types of incoming requests for, delayed payment or just
Sure.
flagging things like slow to pay and things like that
Okay.
within the CRM system, and using that to run some trends and surface that to the rest of the team. So you want it to be part of your customer strategy and not like a totally separate silo off to the left that we hope is running okay and just hope our best. It should be part of how you strategize interacting with that customer kind of end to end. So being able to see that, surface those, and start talking about that as part of an entire team can really be helpful in these matters.
And I appreciate that, learning from this gentleman, talking about, building those relationships between accounts receivable team and payables team on that customer side,
Mhm.
and knowing people's first name in payables. Who
Yeah.
does that? We don't do that. Or when do they pay? Are they a 10th, 20th, 30th pay? Do they cut checks twice a month? What is their payment, cycle? And so I know to get invoices in front of them or to reach out to them and say, hey, is there any dispute? Anything that's going on that would prevent you from paying this set of invoices that are due or anything. God, what a proactive approach to that. I think the only time that there's interaction is when there's a problem or there's a negative
Yes.
or, or like there's a past due, multiple days past due. But I think there's a missed opportunity there as well, that there are places that, reaching out ahead of time and developing those relationships with that other side, the payable side of that customer, infinitely, profitable. I mean, that can be a tremendous opportunity there. I think one of the things that drives me crazy in that particular realm is the haphazard lines of credit establishment.
Yes.
And I'm not poking fun at any of my, AR or credit management people because I spend a lot of time with them. But I think that thinking, when is somebody deserving of an expansion of line of credit, or when
Mhm.
is someone maybe deserving of a reduction in line of credit, and allowing systems like this to give them insights on that
Yeah.
rather than, oh, I go and review lines every 6 months or a year, or I hate to say it, annually, I'll review people's lines. Or I think systems like this can be doing this on the fly. It's on a much more perpetual basis.
Wonderful, wonderful point. And to me, it's a direct parallel to the kind of increased scrutiny is the wrong word, but the increased understanding and suggestions for
Yeah.
sales teams on discounting. It's the same thing, right? Like sales rep that's been in the field for 25 years.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
know their line items, they know their price points, they know their stuff,
Hmm.
and their discounting tends to follow certain patterns, right? They're
Yeah.
discounting kind of peanut butter across all products for their main kind of key accounts. They're discounting in fives, 5%, 10%,
Yes.
15%.
Yes. The dreaded
They're
fives.
falling
Yeah.
into these patterns, and it's that's natural. That's human. And it's where technology can step in and help like question that with some data of, hey, like, yep, you want to use your relationship here and leverage it. You're going to give a discount, but our data shows you can give a 7% discount instead of 10, and keep those 3 points back. It's the same type of thing when you get to the accounting side of the thing
Sure.
of challenging some of those like human assumptions that we have with some data and suggestions to get you going. Yeah, I love that approach. It's wonderful.
Perfect. Our time is running a little short here, but I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit. Where's White Cup going? Where, I mean, AI is
Yeah.
top of mind, but where are you all going? If you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about where you all see yourselves going and where you see kind of the role that you fit.
Absolutely. We are going very hard into AI, as most tech providers are right
Sure.
now. For us, that is, we want to continue to add in AI features into our system that are directly related to solving distributors' problems. So we don't like to slap AI into our product for the sake of saying we have AI. We
Yeah.
want to encapsulate it in something that we know our users could get value out of. So understanding buying cycle insights, product suggestions. These are things that we've done previously. What we're working on now and headed kind of into the future is continuing that journey of agentic AI, another fun buzzword everyone keeps hearing about.
Agentic AI, yeah.
Really what that means for us is same thing we talked about earlier, just an extension. So your tooling, your BI and your CRM should be feeding you information to make you more successful at your job. It should be enabling you to do more with less time, less effort, all of these things. And agentic AI is a wonderful tool for us to provide that type of service for folks. So for us, really where I see, in the very near future, where there's all sorts of fun stuff coming out. But if you zoom out a little bit, even like 2 years, this stuff is moving so quickly now. When we think about CRM and BI and these types of things, we're going to see this shift very quickly here of I don't need to search for my account, pull it up, look through history, things like that. That idea of navigating through pages of an application, that is going away. Instead, you are asking your AI assistant that's built into your tool, hey, I'm looking at doing this, or hey, what do I need to care about today? Or, run this report and, get me some tasks for follow-ups. It's all about interacting with that mini assistant in your pocket, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And just being more efficient, having more of that data at your fingertips, but in a way that's actually usable. So they are really fun projects to work on. It's just so much fun from the technology side. But again, we're always super focused on what does this actually mean for our users? And frankly, what are our distribution folks looking to adopt in their business? What are they ready for? What are they comfortable with? We're going to keep pushing them a little bit further on the technology side to help them see what's possible. But it needs to be really rooted in what do their days actually look like? What is important for them, and not from a technology company perspective that can drive other solutions a little bit. So that's always our focus here.
Perfect. So, Kristen, if someone wants to learn a little bit more about Whitecup and what you all are doing and get engaged with you, how do they do that?
Absolutely. Website is the best place to start. We're whitecupsolutions.com. You can request a demo, reach out to any of us, see what we're doing and what's coming next from us there.
Fantastic. We'll put that all in the show notes and make sure people can get a hold of you. But hey, thank you so much for having this discussion with me. This is really an interesting area, a frustrating area for many, but I think you've shared some things that really kind of opened my eyes, at least, about kind of where people can go to get the most out of products like this. So again, thank you so much for your time, Kristen. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jason. This was an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, consider sharing with your friends and colleagues. And don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast application. Links to sponsors, products, and services mentioned during this episode can be found in the show description area or at www.distributiontalk.com. Distribution Talk is edited and mixed by the brilliant team at the Creative Imposter Studios. This episode was brought to you by my company, the Distribution Team. We are a consulting services firm dedicated to helping wholesale distribution clients remove barriers to profitability, generate wealth, and achieve personal goals. To learn more about how we can help your company succeed, check us out at www.thedistributionteam.com.